So we have an interesting question that I have a lot of opinion and experience with that is not going to be popular. But our company is still contemplating on submitting life support ventilator under the ventilator EUA umbrella. We have a 510K almost ready, but is waiting for biocompatibility tests. Should we still pursue EUA path based on all the work that needs to be pursued during the transition? So that's a great question given the complications of the timeline. And it's even a better question because of the unknown of if the FDA is publishing their thoughts on winding this down, are they going to continue to clear or authorize products? And I'll tell you this, based off of personal experience, we worked on an EUA for a therapy that would be an alternative to putting somebody on a ventilator. Like before they escalated to that point, it would ideally keep people from being on a ventilator. It was a very low technology, easily accessible product. And it relied on a particular configuration of already cleared devices as well. And this was in the height of the pandemic in 2020. And we got feedback from the FDA that said the FDA was unaware of continued shortages to ventilators, like as a general rule across the country. And in areas like Arizona, where we were petitioning to use it in the Navajo Nation, they said people could be life flighted from the area that had limited access to ventilators to areas that had more ventilators free that weren't in a spike. So I've received that feedback on several other different types of devices where FDA is unaware of a continued shortage, even though there was a policy and a guidance document, and it was shocking. And so if the FDA said that in the height of the pandemic, then what are they going to say now when they are formally trying to wind this down? That's just food for thought. And if you're doing all the work anyways, you're going to be super close to submission. I would get in line for a properly cleared product rather than an EUA.
I think this kind of goes along with what we were just talking about. So another anonymous attendee says, for life-supporting and life-sustaining products such as vents, do we know FDA's bandwidth with accepting all pre-market applications, given majority of reviewers have been pulled from day to day to review and support EUAs?
Yep, so I think that this does go along a bit with the previous conversation. And I think that, that's probably the reason for the withdrawal of the guidance document at phase 3 is that hopefully all those resources that were dedicated to EUA now kind of go gangbusters on submissions. But I think that there's definitely going to be a resource constraint at the FDA, which is why in phase 3, they say well in advance of phase 3, start your pre-market submission. Well, if the other things in phase 3 say prior to or before the start of phase 3, but submissions say well in advance of phase 3, then that means, the earlier you get your submission in the queue, the more likely you are to receive clearance in a timely fashion.
And FDA does mention directly in the guidance that they are intending to use notification of intent for resource planning purposes, which is why they want them so early. So I think that, FDA feels the pressure from industry that they don't have enough resources and they're trying to accommodate the best that they can.
That's a good point. The purpose of the notification of intent, and I believe the reason you have to do it, whether both if you're not going to submit, and if you're going to submit, is so that the FDA can brace for impact for the submissions, that they can have an idea of how many are going to really be coming in.
Yeah, because that list is very specific to, mostly life-sustaining products or life-supporting.